nice front and back, leader's garment. Quite happy.
It's alright, isn't it? Looks pretty good in that bad boy.
Excellent, I think the word you're looking for is... Look at that thing. Looks beautiful, doesn't it? Beautiful.
Now, only if you're ready for this.
Welcome back to the OTV podcast, the original and still the best New Zealand mountain bike podcast. We're here, we've survived the Whaka'ed 100, barely in my case, but we've made it through.
Hang on, you didn't survive. What are you talking about?
Well, I'm still here. I maybe didn't finish, but I still survived. So that was a story I was going to get onto later, but if you haven't seen, I did not finish the race. I had to pull the pin. But Mr. Perry, who has kindly jumped in and thrown that at me, best finisher of the day.
That was me. Thank you very much.
And that's the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you all next week. Boys, how are we feeling? Les, you can go first. You're the first person I can see on my screen.
I'll go first. Yeah, the legs are still pretty tender, but yeah, mixed emotions really about that weekend. I made a couple of, one particular amateur mistake, which I thought was the right decision at the time, and now looking back on it, it was really not the right decision. And that was to stop for a leak at the bottom of the No Brains climb, thinking that I might be able to close the gap on people who are like 10 kilos lighter than me. And it was one of those pisses which just never stops. So I lost a bunch of time there. A bit of a feed zone issue, which lost me. It was only 2 minutes, but still, we had to chase back, which uses effort.
You got a bit jacked at that feed zone at the bag drop.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. Obviously they couldn't find my bag for whatever reason. But I don't know that my result would be any different if neither of those things would happen. But hey, you never really know. But it would have been nice to not stop for a leak, because I think then at least I would know where I was at.
I was talking to a friend of ours. We'll leave him nameless for now. I'll tell you guys who it was later. You might have already heard the story, but he decided that while he was coasting down one of the roads, he would try and go for a leak off his bike whilst coasting. And once he got the stream going and he was like, wow, this is going real good, he realised that it was just going all over his bottles.
Oh, fuck, that's so good.
That is awesome. That's basically what I was scared of happening. I was either like, I'm going to just wet all over everything, or I'm going to crash.
Yeah.
So that's why I stopped.
Friend of the show who we had on to talk about the Whaka'ed, Katie Winton, actually witnessed this happening as well. She was riding past and asked if he was all good, and then realised what was going on.
Oh my goodness! I don't want to go into it too much, but what are the logistics there? Because I had you in the back of my mind, our pre-race conversation about going ways in the back of my mind for a good portion of this race, amongst many other things. But I went once, and there's a lot involved in going for a slash off the bike, especially when you're wearing bibs.
Well, especially when you've been sat for I don't know, however many hours at that point, really getting the stream going takes a bit of effort, I think. Yeah, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's brave.
Bold move. But that was definitely an interesting move from that friend of the show.
I think that person needs to be named and shamed.
I think I can figure out who he is. Since we've only got one friend of the show who rides cross country.
Yeah. Yeah, you got it. That was good. That was probably my highlight, was hearing that story. So yeah, it was pretty good.
That's pretty good.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so I think for me, yeah. Anyway, it was good. I just kind of, I guess reflecting on it, every Whaka'ed that I've done, this is the third, I think, 100 that I've done now. And every year you're just fine tuning this next thing, and it's the pursuit of perfection, I reckon, which is what
brings you back.
I'm kind of into.
I don't know if I got that memo, Lester.
Pursuit of
That's
perfection.
kind of what, That's what I like. That's what I think draws me back to it.
Chris,
So
do
it's
you,
like,
Chris,
I
do you
think
think you came in the pursuit of seeing if you could finish with the least preparation you could do?
well, it's funny you say that because I think probably a good few months out, I was like, we're going on a survival trip, like right from the outset, and standing in the start corral, I was like, this is just going to be a long day, and it was worse than I thought. It was I I went some really dark places, and I need to issue a public apology.
Again, you've got one every episode.
Yeah, it's becoming a bit of a habit. I think it was somewhere around Mossy Loop, and I hope to never go to Mossy Loop again.
You'll be back there next year.
Exactly. This time next year, I'll be back at Mossy Loop. I'll probably still be there this time next year, this time of night. Dead, buried. It was a great place to bury a body, if you would or bury yourself. So, but sort of somewhere in that. So we, shortly bottom of Kung Fu before Mossy Loop, there's a feed station, and I had the 50k mark kind of in my head because last year I blew up before that, on Cramp Hill, and I got up Cramp Hill quite comfortably, and I was like, fucking hell, we're going good here, and I'd managed my hydration relatively well, and I'd reserved, I thought I'd reserved most of my hydration pack, and had emptied my 2 bottles. I was like, sweet, I'm going to get through to that feed zone, fill up, we're going to be home and hose. So I went past the grannies, and I was pretty stoked. Like, I was high on life, and went to drop into Kung Fu. And just before I dropped in Kung Fu, I took a big mouthful of hydration fluid from my pack, and it just went blub, 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 blub. I was like, oh, fucking hell, we're out. Oh, this is bad. I was like, it's okay. We're not far to the feed zone. Hit the feed zone, and filled up. I was so stoked to be there. Filled up 2 bottles. I was like, okay, cool. We still haven't. So I did cramp at 25 Ks, but I sort of managed it okay to there, which that's a quarter of the race. So it was early days. Took off from that feed zone, and it's like I just hit this like euphoria. I was so pumped and so jazzed because I'd conquered Cramp Hill.
I think we managed to make a move for that to be a motion for it to be named Cramp Hill next year. Like I think it has to be called Cramp Hill.
100%. So as I'm leaving in the feed zone, I let out a little bit of an internal like, yeah, you fucking got this. Like I'm sure everyone's done it. Little internal monologue there. And I kind of felt a bit jazzed when I did it. I was like, yeah, fuck, give it another one. It's like, yeah, you fucking got this. And then I'm taking off into the bush, just yelling at myself, just full like top of my lungs, just let's fucking have it. Full like William Wallace. And come around a corner, and there's a woman who was racing, and I sort of came past her, and as I came past her, I was like, let's fucking go, because I was just in the zone, and she probably just got the fright of her life, and I did that 3 or 4 times again throughout the race. So that's my public apology. Anyone who was subject to that, my apologies.
All right, Chris's apology for today.
Until I got to the 60k mark, and then it was just a death march for the last 40Ks.
At least you got to the 60k mark. Why?
100%. Well, yeah.
Cramp Hill this year was where I decided it was over. That was my point. That was my point.
Did Cramp Hill get you?
Cramp Hill.
Yeah, I saw him coming down Cramp Hill.
Yeah, I turned around and rode back down Cramp Hill. That was where my day ended. So, I mean, I
didn't summit Cramp Hill.
I don't know what that hill's actually called. I don't know what that road's actually called, but it's the road that goes up.
Cramp Hill.
Yeah, but now forever known now as
Cramp Hill.
It could also be known as Failure Hill, something like that. But so I got to that point. I mean, it had been not a good day already, and I just got past where Hatu Patu comes out. It's on that road heading up towards like West Split Ends and Kung Fu Walrus, and that is up top of that hill. And Cramp Hill got me again. I went into full lockup, like groin, quad, hamstrings, calves. Like I was just cramp from my groin down, basically at that point. Like
so good.
I had to.
Welcome to my world, KB.
I actually had to stop. Like I was like, "There's no way I'm getting out of this. I can't physically keep pedaling at this point. And so here I am, stood on the side of the road, and I'm like trying to stretch, but every way I stretch, it's like just one of the other cramps is going harder. So I'm just kind of stood there. At this point, I'd been like eating electrolyte capsules like they were M&Ms.
Lollies.
Yeah. I'd been like on the gels, I'd been on the fluids, and I just couldn't stomach anything else. And so I stood there for probably about 4 or 5 minutes, just weighing up with myself, like, if I keep going and I go to Kung Fu and I get through Chris's like period of elation down the bottom of there, like out by Mossy Loop, I was like, if I really fall to pieces somewhere out on Mossy Loop, like I'm fucked. Like there is, like
You'd have to get an Uber from that road, wherever that comes from.
Do you reckon an Uber would come there? It might have been a Westpac rescue chopper coming to get me from out there. If I was...
No, you're getting that real long distance surcharge.
True. Yeah. Maybe I could get it. Maybe
you should have, because I had my PLB with me, and I was, that's what got me through.
You could have saved me. And so I kind of was weighing up the decision. I was like, right, I know that if I turn around right now, I can roll back down, I can go back down the shuttle road, I just pedal out and I'm back. Like I know, I looked at the time and I was like, still got a bit of time, I can get back, I can get like ready, I can catch the elites coming in, or I can carry on and I'm probably just end up dead somewhere. Like Chris is probably just going to bury me out on Mossy Loop somewhere. And the biggest thing that was holding me back was like, I'm going to be the guy that's rolling backwards down the road past all these people. And like, so finally I was like, my legs aren't getting any better. I'm cooked, I'm done. So I turn around, I start going back and start rolling back down the road, and people just giving me this look of sympathy, like, oh, this poor bastard, like he's done. And then about 3 people in, I see Rankin, and I'm like, there goes my childhood hero, and I'm looking.
There goes my hero.
I'm looking like an absolute bitch. I'm just riding back down the road, and I'm just like, the embarrassment. 2 riders later, here's Red Dog. Red Dog gives me the look of sympathy, though. Like Red Dog's like, he
had a bad day.
He gives me a high five on the way past. He doesn't ask me any questions. Like he knows that it's just not a good day.
I asked him I was like, "You okay?" And he said, "I'm done." And I just gave him a high five, and that was it.
Yep. And
put it in the truck. We're going home.
I've seen it. I've seen it before.
Yeah. And so that was it. And even like riding back along past was it Long Mile Road, just the flat road that you're riding back to get back to the car park. I'm going along there, and I'm just absolutely spinning, like just minimal effort, just pedaling along, and I'm still fighting cramps, just riding along the flat road. And I was like,
that is so good.
I was like, this was the right decision, because there's no chance I was making it A, around Mossy Loop, B, up to No Brains, and C, up Pondy. Like there's no chance I was getting through any of that stuff. So
KB, what you just described is exactly what happened to me last year and this year, except I was like, you kind of had somewhere that you needed to be. You could have weighed those options. You're like, fuck, do I keep going and just deal with this, or I'll get back to the finish line, be there for elite guys to cross the line, do the OTB work. I didn't have that option, really. and in the back of my mind, all I had was, I can't face you guys and and our dear listeners having said that I pulled pin as like just a mid-pack battler. So all I had was like, well, you can't. There's no option. You just got to keep going. And it was a lonely 40 Ks.
Do you know what I did?
It's fucking funny though.
I got back. I put my bike on the truck. I didn't even lock it up. I didn't care at that point. I just put it on the back of the truck. I grabbed my grips and clean clothes. I walked down to Secret Spot, had myself a nice shower, spent a bit of time, just had a nice shower, washed off, went back, packed the bike up, went and sat, had some lunch, and then caught the finishers finishing and did a few finish line interviews and did a bit of content.
So good. Oh, good day all round then.
Well, I'll tell you.
Good day's work. Before we go too far down the rabbit hole of failure, I want to hear from Red Dog.
Yeah. Gets back to success.
Oh, yeah, it was successful enough. I didn't succumb to what Kerry did, so that's good. And my face probably didn't look as much pain as Chris's did when he crossed the line. I'd say it's a win. But I think we got to make some changes for next year. Moki's just light years ahead at this point, and we're going to have to do some, I don't know, heat training or cold training, or I don't know. I think it's temperature related where we need to be. Do I do it in a fridge? Is that where is that the new sort of?
You're going cold training
for training? Well,
pickle
I don't
juice.
know. Pickle juice?
I honestly, the best thing we could do is pace better.
Yeah, I think
I
so.
think
That's all there is to it, I reckon. Because I just felt so mint for the first probably 50, maybe even 60 Ks. I felt real good.
Oh, that's where
And
I felt my
like,
worst.
yeah, I'm not pushing too hard here. I was just kind of like feeling good. And then probably was around 60 Ks. And then I had a few niggles of cramp, but I was still feeling pretty good. And but I said to Kieran, like, earlier in the day, I was looking at my power meter, like, I don't race the power or anything like that, but I looked at the numbers and I was like, oh, we're going way too hard. It didn't feel like we were.
That was me and looking at my heart rate all through the start of the day. Every climb at the start of the day, I could not get my heart rate under 190. And I was like, this is not good. Like, I was...
Nah, you obviously got something going on.
Nah, I was between like 190 and 194 on every climb, and then I was just trying to sit down on the descents and get any little bit of recovery I could. It was not good.
Yeah. My heart rate line looks like a preview from a World Cup downhill. Like, it starts up here somewhere and just goes, ends up, pretty low. And I think I can see on the net. Yeah, pretty much. It's funny because I think I had the same thing. I cramped at 25k. That was scary.
Where was that? Where was 25k? Like, where were you about? I'm trying to think of how far that would have been on the trail.
That's got to be like top of
Gunnagotta or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Maybe
further on Gunnagotta. Anyway, it wasn't
kind of thing like up.
No, it's before the feed station.
Yeah,
before the drop feed zone.
Yeah, so it wasn't. It was early.
Yeah.
And too early, but it was like really isolated. I was like, oh, okay, that's just I can probably deal with this. And I kind of got on top of it, and I knew I'd been pushed too hard, but I didn't slow down because I got behind friend of the show, Malcolm Cleveland, who's an Ironman athlete, and I should have known.
He's not the one that pissed on his bottles, even though that would be a real Iron Man move. But no, it wasn't.
No, he probably would, but no, that's not the guy we're referring to. But I got behind him really early on, and I was like, "Oh shit, this feels like a good pace. This feels comfortable. I can run this for quite a while." And ran it for about 15 k's. I didn't tell him I was there for quite a while, and then he turned around. He was quite surprised, and I think that's what killed me, really. Like, I just thought I was comfortable, but I was, you guys talked about burning a few matches on the finish line corral with a few of the guys that came across the line. I burnt the whole fucking house down in the first 20 Ks.
Did you light up?
There was no timber left. Yeah, it was no timber. And then, but yeah, kind of got through that bit, and then I think I was feeling real good right up to about I'd say up to the bottom of frontal, and frontal was so demoralizing because the mud. And I was just like,
that was grim.
Oh god, this is rough. And I think from there on, it was survival.
Actually,
it was.
I don't know.
I found like.
Sorry,
I was just like the on frontal. I was just like, I think I walked maybe 3 times, and every time I was just like, everyone's going to be walking. Just keep moving forward. Just keep going forwards. Just don't go backwards. And I was like paranoid that someone behind me was going to be catching me, which they did by the top. But that was a hard climb.
Do you know
I walked 3 times as well.
How bad I'd got on frontal was I actually walked like the last section of it just before it pops up onto the top of the shuttle bit where there's no mud. I just couldn't pedal up there. I'd actually got off and walked up that bit.
Did you
Yeah,
get back
that's
on the
bad.
bike though before the marshals could see you?
No, I walked across the top of like where the shuttle. I walked across like walk of shame. People getting off the shuttle. I walked across there. I stood for a bit because I was cramping once again, and then I just started walking up the next section up towards Billy T because I just couldn't pedal anymore. I was just walking, and I was like, right,
So good.
it was pretty grim. But hey, I don't know if you guys got a view of it, but there was actually quite a few OTB fans out there on the side of the trail. Shout out those people. I had quite a few like podcast calls while we're out there. So thanks for those listeners of
I
the
had
show.
one on the trail.
I got
passed a
about
guy
twice
and
as many as you, KB, because I rode the back half the race.
True. Yeah, Red Dog, you had a listener on trail.
Yeah, I passed him in like the first probably 5Ks, not even. And then we started yarning about the podcast.
I pulled up behind Lester when I caught up with him, and I shouted out, "That podcast fucking sucks!" And I was hoping I'd get a reaction, but he never turned around.
Oh, I never heard that.
I know. Yeah. I was really hoping that one would pay off, and it didn't, which was sad. But man, it was.
What about the dude early on, Kerry? Actually, I've got a couple of stories from the start. The start's real hectic.
The one early on was good.
Especially in
Not for
that
him.
first wave, because everyone's trying to sort themselves out. And you came across the guy, Kerry, who was like in the creek.
Yeah. And
lying in the
On
water.
the start line.
No, so in creek, like the creek trail, when you're like winding back and forward, and there's one, I don't know, there's probably maybe a few of them, but you actually cross a creek at one point. You go over a little bridge, and I come in there, and there's a dude flat on his back in the water with his bike like beside him in the creek. Yeah. He's saturated, like he's in there.
That is such a bad start.
I shout out, I'm like, "You all right?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm all good." And then I was telling Red Dog, and he's like, "Yeah, I saw him there too." So he was in there for. Well, probably you wouldn't have been that far behind me, but
no way. That is so funny.
There was a dude also that he must have crashed not far behind you, Kerry, in the start corral thing.
Yeah.
There was a crash over on the left, and apparently that dude dislocated his shoulder, and so he went back to the medic tent, got it put back in, and then carried on. He started.
Oh, what a legend!
That is savage. What a legend.
Don't think you
There's
finished.
no
Shout out to that guy.
Their bike is going in the truck so fast at that point.
Can you imagine?
Actually, speaking of legends, how good was? Oh my goodness, total mind blank. Old mate on the single speed.
Shannon.
Yeah, Shannon for one. Like he just came past me. Oh, we rode with him for a bit.
Yeah, we followed him. We followed him for a bit. Me and Lester together at this point, and I'm like, well, we can probably pace him because I was thinking like we should be able to climb with him because, well, actually, no, in hindsight, we shouldn't be able to because he's going to have to push such a high pace up the hills. But I was thinking like, surely we can like kind of pace him, and then Shannon just dropped us and was gone. And then he ended up doing like a 5:45 or something. So he was on one.
What?
Yeah. Single speed hardtail.
Savage. So I want to know. I'd love to hear from Shannon. But what's the deal there? Is he just gone doing it normally is just no fun anymore?
It's too easy.
So what's the motivation?
No,
because like even like going.
His bike with gears, so he had something wrong with it, and then he'd started to ride this single speed. And then he got his other bike going, and he was like, "Oh, I'm just riding my single speed all the time, so I'll just get rid of my other bike." So he got rid of his other bike and ride the single speed.
So it's just full like Mary Kondo'd that bullshit. Just I'm done with.
I mean, not only is it a single speed, it's a hardtail too, which most of them are.
What a beast!
But he's an exceptional rider. I rode over there with him a few weeks ago, and he just has lines that you wouldn't even really look at. I guess that's the advantage of riding that forest literally every day, but just smooth. Not necessarily the fastest A to B line, but just smooth and not punishing.
Well, I was riding through that.
That's incredible.
Dragon's Tail, like that. Just after that was after my first bout of cramp. But that trail through there, I was thinking like, man, it would be good to have ridden this stuff and knew you going because I just felt lost. Like I was just hitting every single hole, every route, like just hitting every corner wrong. It's like this is all bad. It'd be nice to have an idea of where you're going.
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of local knowledge goes quite a long way there for sure.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Is it just me, or was there something about this year that just was harder?
It felt tough. Probably the rain.
I think the water, the rain and the water I reckon the water and the gravel made it
Yeah.
roll slower. Like
Slow,
all of the
yeah.
long climbs felt slower to me.
Yeah.
And I heard multiple people kind of say that it was a super tough year. I don't think the frontal being slippery really. I mean, that definitely slowed you down, but I don't know that was too bad. But I think just the combination of all of the climbs, maybe apart from the single track ones, all of the gravel seemed slower to me.
Yeah, because it sort of that gravel sort of, I don't know how to put it, but it sort of fluffs up a little bit. Like it gets, like it does get a little bit of a softness to it.
Actually, I don't know what you guys thought, but Kung Fu I thought was like a bit slower than normal too. You had to ride it I definitely had to ride it a lot more within myself than I normally would because it was a bit slippery.
I reckon it was
I
slow.
can't remember Kung Fu. I've just got a full blank.
Yeah, I didn't get there, so no opinion.
I remember getting to the top of Kung Fu, like going down the road to Kung Fu, and then I remember getting to that water station and nothing in between.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. I've got a few blanks.
Hey Chris, I thought
They had that
bang your head
weird.
anywhere.
You had to come across, on Kung Fu. They cut you out early, and you went down that muddy, straight, narrow thing.
Yeah,
That's probably why I shut it out.
Hey Chris, I think I've
got PTSD.
I've got a question for you, one that you probably wouldn't have shut out. What was the best part of the day, and why was it meeting Petty Gower?
Oh damn! It was good meeting Petty.
I'll give you a straight answer to that, Kieran. The best part of the day was meeting Petty Gower. You
can't even get it out.
Petty Gower. Bro, I'm still so cooked. My brain's not fully functioning today. But the reason it was the best part of my day was because I introduced myself. I said, "Hey, Petty," as walking past, and he turns around and looks at me like blank face, obviously. And I put my hand up and go, "Chris from the OTB podcast," and he goes, "Oh, g'day, mate."
Yes.
It was like an old mate. I was like, "Oh, this is great. This shit's opening doors for me."
Fantastic.
It's brilliant.
The best bit was,
and then we had a good yarn.
The best bit was, we're sitting there on Saturday night, and I can't even remember how it came up. Oh, you had seen him on Saturday, Chris, and you were like, "Hey, is this Petty Gower?"
Yeah, and this is a bit weird, because I took a photo of him and sent it to the boys and was like, "Is Petty here? He's here. He's actually here." And but then I wasn't sure if it was just a dude that looked like him from a distance, and turns out it was, which is great.
Because you checked the entries, and we found out he was doing the 25K, and then we were like, "Well, let's send him a message." So I sent him a message from the OTB podcast account and said, "Hey, good luck for the 25K tomorrow. We should get you on the podcast sometime. Petty Gower does a deep dive on cramp." And then
I think we should. I'd love to hear his take.
Well, so then Petty followed the podcast, and then so obviously he had that recognition when you saw him the next day, which was fantastic. So it was all down to your eagle eyes.
I was just looking out for Petty.
That's great. He stood there and yarned to us for ages. What a legend. He was such a GC.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was a great camera.
I think
he was passionate.
He doesn't get cramp, though. So he doesn't want to do a deep dive on cramp because he doesn't get it.
No, but this is the thing.
Nice.
He said he did the 25, and he said he was going to be doing the 50, but he had to work Friday night. And I was this close saying, "Fuck you, mate. I'd work Friday night as well." But his work Friday night's probably a little different to ours.
Yeah.
It's probably doing the fucking news.
Doing the fucking podcast.
Yeah.
We could take over for that Friday night slot if he needs more prep time. He could put us on.
Yeah, that was great. We'll have to hopefully comes back next year. We'll get him on the pod.
I'd say he'll be on the 50.
Yeah.
So will you, KB?
Yeah, I'm going back to the 50.
Short course.
Did you see how fast they do that though?
Yeah.
That's rapid,
I hate to
man.
think.
I might race the e-bike.
Like 222 or something.
Make it a work trip, KB.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking like we could all just split up the categories. Like Lester can do the miler, just because he's had the best results. So we're going to put him in for the miler. Red Dog do the
Oh,
100,
I
you
don't
can do
know.
the 50, Chris, and I'll do the e-bike.
You putting Leicester or Red Dog into the Milo because
I'll do the
they're both
25.
going and doing the Breve. Like these guys are Breve guys now.
Red Dog's probably the
Oh, we'll
Milo
see.
guy because he'll just ride all day long.
We'll see how the Breve goes. We might not be successful yet.
We've got to get through it first.
We might be taking a bus back from Akaroa
It's a good option.
if we get that
So-
far. Yeah.
So how long did it take you guys? I mean, obviously Leicester and Red Dog, you guys had good days. So I assume you kind of crossed the line and thought, it's a good day out. We'll start working on next year. But KB, what about you? But I crossed the line and I was like, oh, God, that was fucking horrible. What a terrible day. What was I thinking not training for this thing? You know, I've wasted my time. I've let the podcast down, let my parents down, let my family down. Or just what a waste. Took about 10 minutes for me to stand in there going, yeah, I reckon I know what I can do better next year. All right, let's start prepping. And then today, I spent a decent portion of my day looking at indoor trainers. I was like, the key is I didn't do enough riding through winter, so I need a trainer. So we've got a Wahoo kicker set up on the way. Like it's getting out of hand.
I spent a good portion of my day looking at cramp remedies. That was legitimately what I was looking at today.
What did you find?
Some stuff called cramp fix apparently, and it disrupts the nervous system rather than goes to the muscles. So we're going to try that next year.
Oh man, that sounds
Bro, does it-
really serious.
Does it come in a little canister with a little cracker on the top?
No, I think what you do is
sounds like Nangs.
you inject it straight into your spinal cord. I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
Yeah, that's right. Go straight to the
I'm actually
source.
I'm going to get an epidural before the walking next year, so I just have no feeling below my waist. That should work.
Yeah, I still maintain that the best fix for cramp is to actually train more and properly.
I don't have time for that though. I need quick fixes.
Yeah, I reckon. Yeah.
I think you're right, Lester. I think there's some merit in what you're saying.
I hate to say it, but the whole thing, and I think this weekend probably confirmed it to me more than other years. A race like that's over 6 hours, or for us it's over 6 hours, or in some cases 7.
In some cases. And look, statistically, Lester, most cases.
Well, actually, what did I look up today? The slowest time was 11 hours 58 or something.
That's a long day.
So that's a long day out there.
That's
Anyway,
huge.
my point is
that person rode the same race as the Oliver twins. Like, or boys, sorry, they're not twins.
Yeah.
And that's the bit, right? That's the thing that gets me is that every single person who did that ride, right, rode the same course, dealt with the same shit. They just did it in different times.
And it was hard.
It was.
and it's harder when you're out there for 11
Exactly.
hours. That's for
Wasn't
sure.
easy for anyone.
No. Can you imagine if you were trying to push 90 grams an hour and you're out there for 11 hours?
Oh, that's a lot of fuel.
That's a lot of fuel. But that's not my point. My point is you really just have to be doing long rides, I think. That's the key.
I
to
think
it.
so.
And I did
Like
none.
my longest ride was 4 hours in Rotorua, 1 4-hour ride. And I did a couple of 3.5s, a few probably 3s, but most of them were under 2, And you can only get by, like literally, you can only do 70 Ks or whatever on that kind of training, and then your wheels start to fall off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless
I was
you
the same
literally
as
just are riding.
3.5 to 4 would have been my max. Most are around 2.5.
Yeah.
I did.
But you did quite a few of those, Red Dog.
Yeah, I did quite a few, but quite a few is like 1 a week because that's what you have time for.
I got one
'Cause I think-
significant one that was like just under 5 hours and about 75 Ks, but that was it. That was the biggest I got, and the only one that was close to that sort of size.
I think, I reckon that's the key though. If you could get, even if you did 1 or 2 a month, where you're like 5 plus, with some effort, I reckon
And a clip,
that'd probably
yeah.
make a big
Yeah.
difference.
My wife ain't putting
And
up
I
with
think
that.
this is the thing that I think that's the thing that kills like people like us with families and jobs and kids.
Kids
and everything,
and
is you go out like I know I can ride the pace that I rode, the first 40Ks at quite happily. Like that'll be a good Saturday training ride. But the training rides are very rarely going beyond that distance, and I think that's the thing. You'd have to be so conscious and pulling it back to maintain a consistent pace across the entire day, and that would be really hard to do because you're riding Rotorua, dirt's good, having a good time, feeling good, riding around other people as well. I think that's the thing that probably also killed me is my strategy definitely failed me. The idea of going off the back of wave one, I probably should have gone in the middle of wave two and just found a pace that worked, and I probably would have been about 10% slower across the first 20Ks, but I probably wouldn't have blown up until at least 70. And and that's 10Ks on from where I did blow up, so it's positive.
I think you look at Shannon on the single speeds one, Mike Metz was definitely another one where they just have just cruised through the start and then just mow past and just keep going at a pretty decent pace, but they're not going 10-10 off the line. Which I mean,
I have the other
that's
opposite
knowing-
theory. I was like, I got to go fast because I can't go fast later. But maybe it's because I've gone so fast at the start.
Yeah,
But you don't
Fast
sweat,
for me.
Red Dog. I've seen you riding on like a hot day, and
It's because he has so much sunblock on. He's quite fair.
yeah,
I do have a
like-
lot of
I'll block
sunblock
before
on,
that.
and I bet there was a few people who didn't put it on Sunday because it wasn't that sunny to start with.
Like
I was
you
thinking,
conserve
you'll be
fluid
sunburnt.
better than most people to the extent that you could have just been one of the hydration tanks halfway through the race. Like they could have rigged you up, and we could just be tapping you because you're not losing fluid like everyone else.
Well, you say that, but like as Lester was saying, he went wheeze. I didn't go wheeze the entire time, and the previous years I did. So there was something going on. Like I hadn't had enough.
You probably had your
fluid
strategy
going
dog.
in.
How much did you drink, Red Dog?
I thought I was doing pretty well, but I actually, when I picked up one of my drop bag, it had my bottles in it, and one of them was still way fuller than I thought it was, which was a bit of a...
The first couple of hours was pretty hard
Bit annoying.
was actually quite hard to drink through those first couple of hours because it's pretty busy. Like no matter where you are, like you're kind of in a lot of traffic, so you kind of always, you're not just cruising, you're not like at a point where you can kind of just think about grabbing a drink. That's what I found anyway. Like I found I was really consciously having to try and drink through the first part of the day to get the fluids in.
Yeah. I was getting a lot of carbohydrate in though, Lester, because I had like a real heavy mix in the bottles.
Tell you
That
what, I
pure
did not.
race fuel stuff, and I was getting through it, so that was alright. But
I tipped out
I don't
about
think I was getting
$20
enough
worth of
fluid
carbohydrates at the end of the day because I just had finished in the end, and I was like, I don't want to drink this shit ever again. I was like, just give me water. That's all I want right now is I just want water.
Did you consider going around and picking up all the gels people had dropped?
They
Because
were
there was so many.
everywhere. Full gels were just falling out of people's pockets left, right, and centre.
Like you could have made your entry fee back in gels, I reckon. Just picking them up as you went.
Yeah. I went down the road of like high carb mixed, and I drank 2 bottles by the time we got to the first feed at 35, which was my plan. Oh, in fact, one of those was a 900ml bottle too.
Jesus.
Yeah,
A
big
900 and a 700. So I think I might have actually gone a bit deep on the hydration too early. And then once I got on my Camelback and 2 new bottles at the feed, I was just keeping on that program. And then I was just like, I've got to go for a leak. And that was like, that was not the one. But
I've just realised I never picked up my drop bag, guys. I left 2 bottles.
Oh, I
in
almost
Rotorua.
forgot mine too. What's in there?
2 bottles. R.I.P.
Oh,
Yeah,
Are they OTB bottles or are they Bosch?
Nah,
bottles?
those Bosch ones. It's fine. I didn't pay for them.
thank goodness. Thank
Yeah,
goodness.
You've got to give something back to the consumers, KJ.
Yeah. Hopefully they go somewhere
The-
good. Maybe I'm picking
How
up
many
next
gels
year.
did we consume? We won't bother asking Kieran.
Yeah, I don't know.
I went through 4
Is that all?
gels. Yeah, because I accidentally put them all in my drop bag, but I didn't mean to. And then I couldn't find them in the morning. I was like, damn, I put them in that drop bag. But then at the drop zone, I only picked up 4 of them. And then I had
I
some
think-
other stuff to eat, like a power cookie maybe.
That's something I learned this weekend is that I can do that race eating only gels. I ate 6 of them and didn't eat any other food. And it's weird. I felt fine in everything except my legs. Yesterday and today wasn't great, but no, I can survive on gels, which is a
Did you
revelation.
eat
What were you
anything else,
using?
Chris?
Nah, just
Nothing.
So my intake
Just
was,
6 gels.
I think I must have mowed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bottles plus 2 liters of fluid in my pack, and I drained all of it. I ate 8 of those pure electrolyte capsules because I had 8. I would have eaten about 65 of them if I had 65 of them. And mowed all the gels. But it was interesting because I had my food reminder going every 45 minutes, and the first like 4 or 5 times it went, I was like, "Oh, yeah, sweet, cool, get some gels in." And then the last few times I was like, "Go fuck yourself, go away, stop talking to me, go away." I almost threw the thing off the bike.
So I reckon I made a bit of a faux pas with my fueling, and I didn't even think about it until afterwards. I had the high carb mix, which I was drinking fastidiously, like I was way on top of my hydration, and basically I'd mixed that strong enough that every bottle was 90 grams, or the equivalent to every bottle was 90 grams. And then I had some gels, which I'd kind of planned they were going to be like my backup, that if I couldn't stomach the high carb mix, I would then switch to water and take the gels. But I don't know why. I started just punching the gels as well. So by the time I reached sort of, I reckon, it was probably about 80 Ks actually at the bottom of, at the feed. Yeah, it was just before the feed heading up
Pondy.
at 85 there, up Pondy elevator.
Yeah.
I was coming along there and my guts were like really not feeling good. Like I was like, I'm going to have a spew soon. And sure enough, from then on, I spewed probably maybe 4 times, maybe 5 times. Not like
Did
massive
you?
one.
Is this just like
Not like
a little one in the mouth,
huge
or are you violently vomiting off the side of the bike?
This is a violent mouthful.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
But what I think it was is I did like 10. I don't have a firm count on it, but I had 6 gels in my 7, 8. Yeah, so I started with 3 gels. So I would have done either 10 or 11 gels plus my high carb mix.
Wow.
That's a lot.
That's hefty.
That might be
hefty.
why I felt
Jesus.
so good for quite a while. But then when
Yeah.
I didn't feel good, I think probably what happened is my stomach might have just shut down and everything I was putting in just wasn't getting absorbed. But in my 85K bag, I had some water. And so drank some water and I started to feel a bit better. And then the best thing I did was start tipping that water over myself. Man, did that feel good.
Oh, really?
really?
Like that is, and it wasn't, I didn't even think it was that hot. I was like, well, I'm pretty warm. I've got water. So let's just see what happens. And that helped me heaps. I mean, I crept up that climb probably slower than I probably ever have. But apart from maybe last year. But yeah, just a bottle of water down the neck and over the legs. And I probably I didn't even finish the bottle actually, but every 10 or 15 minutes, I was just giving a little squirt. And man, that made a difference to keeping cool. And I was getting some niggle cramps in my legs up Pondy. But when I put the cold water, it felt fine. It was like cancelling out the cramp.
Oh, yeah, we'll keep that in the memory bank.
I mean, I know a lot of people nowadays, like they're using cold ice socks and all kinds of stuff to stay cool in the road races and that. And the mountain bike races, I guess you see at the World Cups, they're all dousing themselves through the feed zones. So I reckon that's something that I'll definitely look at more next year.
So I just want to go back a few weeks then, and we talked about
heat adaptation,
cooling strategies during our respective tropical training weeks, and I think maybe we need to go and revisit the discussion about carrying ice packs, in your hydration pack, because my Solomon hydration pack is sort of perfect for that. It's kind of like a hydration vest in some ways. It's got a little spot right on your rib cage there that you put a couple little slicker pads in. Pull them out of the KFC chili bin that you got 30 years ago and just sneak them in there.
I reckon it'd be the go. But you've got to keep them cool. The thing to do would be to have like 85 have a cooler bag, or at all the feeds,
Yeah.
have a cooler bag with cold bottles and ice socks, whatever. So if it's a hot day,
Oh, so you're
grabbing the
changing
ice
socks?
Putting some new shoes on. Are you changing bibs?
Putting frosty socks on.
Yeah, he's like, he's got
Getting some
shoes
cold
that are
bibs
frozen
on.
in a block of ice. And
Maybe,
slides his
Get
skin.
some cold bibs in there.
maybe we need
You've just got
to
like
employ someone to actually be at the feed zones for us next year. Like, we're just going to have to cash out. We're just going to have to
What do you
like
mean?
fork out and pay for someone to be there for us.
no, we're
Let's just
raffling off a
feed
feeder.
bags. Let's
It's
just feed
this
bags
feeder
on
for
those,
the year.
We
one of
haven't
those
had any
bags of ice you
interest.
put into for your bait for when you go fishing. You know, like you go to the servo, you get those ice bags. It's just got one of those.
Oh, that's so good. And then I'm coming through an hour later and just getting all the melted salty water out of it because
Slud.
just give me
Yeah,
some
yeah.
sodium. I need it.
Yeah. A couple little bits of gurnard hanging out, you know.
Oh,
Bit of squid
I
bait
felt
in
like
there.
a fucking gurnard by the end of the race. So here's an interesting observation, Lisa. Like, objectively, you had a good result. You were 50th, right?
49th, actually.
Same mate.
Oh,
That's
Okay,
your age,
49th,
isn't it?
right? So
Yeah,
you had a good result. Are you? Can I ask you a question? Are you happy with the result? Not the not the ride, not the how you raced it, all the details. Just on paper, are you happy with the result? You look at that
Nah.
and go, "That's a
No.
good outcome." Really?
Nah, although I did, before I looked through the finish list, because I was like, I wonder how many people actually finished. And I wrote it down. 341 riders finished, or men. No. Yeah, I think that was just men. Finished the 100. And I was like, well, that 49th is good. And I guess had I not made a couple of faux pas, I'd be happy with that. Because all I care about is like achieving what you can achieve, you know? Like I know that the guys that I was racing with most of the day, usually I'm on par and we have good battles, but they end up putting 10 minutes into me, maybe even a little bit more than that, because I stopped for a wee and then my wheels fell off, or legs fell off, whichever way you want to put it.
But
So if I'd been competitive and stayed with those guys and then legitimately just been dropped, I probably would be just like, okay, well, it is what it is. But one, I had the feed zone issue, which cost some matches. And two, probably cocked up my fueling a little bit. But you live and learn. So that's why I guess we go back next year and fix those
It's the
problems.
same shit, isn't it? You're like, well, I'm going to fix this next year, and you come in with a whole new strategy, and you're like, well, I did that wrong.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess that's the
win
thing.
or
though.
learn.
Like I say, you're like, for me, it's not about the result or anything like that. It's just about can I achieve that? It's like putting together a downhill
Yeah.
race run. If you do the perfect run for you, then
You know
it's
you've
probably
done it,
going to
right?
be a pretty good outcome, right? Or it's as good as you can do. And for me, I know that if I could tick all the boxes and have the perfect day, I would just be like, that's all I've got. I can't change anything. I'm happy with that, you know.
So
But I
so
kind of
this is the crux of my question, though, right? Is I got across the line and I was like, oh, that was a bad day out, but it wasn't so much because I'd cooked my race or anything. It was because I knew that I turned up unprepared to go and do this thing, and I think what it was is last year it was like the achievement was finishing, and feeling like I've raced it and getting through it and dealing with all the stuff. This year it was weird because finishing was an achievement, but I also had massively underprepared compared to last year. Like I literally didn't train this year. I just kept doing exercise through the winter. And so I'm looking at going, it's actually not a terrible result in the context of things. Like not many people are going out and doing that event at all, let alone, getting somewhere in the middle of the pack. Yet you still look at it and go, oh, just not that satisfied. And that's the thing, though. That's the addictive bit. That's what makes you go, right, we've got some retribution to earn here.
Yeah.
Even though next year I'll be a year older and life will be a year busier.
That's the other problem, right? Oh, it was interesting today. I never really compare and go back and look at any kind of analysis, really. But today I was like, I'll go back and have a look. Might have been yesterday. And I went back and looked at my 2022 effort, and they were pretty similar. my 2022, I
All right.
was not far over 6 hours. Quite a different day, a lot faster course and things like that.
Yeah.
But
How did you go in the 72 event?
1972.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not quite that old.
the
Well,
first running.
that's what I'm getting to though. I'm like 22, and then I'm how many years are we now? 3 years after that.
3 years.
2 years really.
2 years.
After that, and you're like, well, you're 2 years older. I've got a bit. Do I have more responsibility? I don't know. But you're only getting older. But then you look at Kieran and I were saying before we pushed record. There's a couple of guys, 3 or 4 guys who are in my age group who were like right up there. They were racing elite, and they were like in the mix. What are those guys up to?
What about Mike Metz? Wasn't even planning on racing until like a week ago, and he did a 6:03, and he's in the 50s, 59. Like,
So
just
savage.
these guys are absolute beasts. And then there's dudes like Lester was saying, the dude that won his class did a 5:55. Like, what are these guys? Is this just
it's muscle memory, man?
Yeah, it's just
muscle memory.
years
See,
of bad Ks.
this is the one thing that's really dangerous from my race this year is that I came up from going. It was a death march for a good portion of that race, but I now know that I can turn up without doing really anything more than just regular, training, staying fit through the winter, and go and do it and race it. I think what it is with those guys is they just maintain a level of like extreme fitness for the last 30 or 40 years. And so then the strategy from here is get to a certain level and just stay there. So don't train for the race, just be fit enough to do it off the couch any day of the week, any day of the year.
I did talk to Mike about that, and he said he hadn't, up until a couple of weeks ago, or might have even been a week ago, he hadn't even planned on doing it. But he said, it's like, I go and do massive rides. I'll go and do a day-long 6-hour, 7-hour ride. No problem. He likes doing that.
And that's the kicker, right?
That's what you need to do.
He just rode away from us going up Papa Moana. He just pedaled away. Me and Lester were together, and he went past, and he was just like, "Don't forget to drink, boys." And that was the last we saw of him. Like, literally, that was his signing off to us.
Breathing.
Yeah,
I'd be interested actually to look at the effort up Moana. I mean, we weren't pushing hard, but
I was slower than last year.
If I pushed any harder, I would have blown up.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
I was about a minute faster up there last year than I was this year, and I was battling up there this year. I think one of my favourite parts of the day from my supportive wife, I called her when I got back after I got back to the truck and said I'd decided to pull out, hadn't been feeling that well, and she goes, "Oh, at least it'll make good content for the podcast."
Well, that's true. I mean, we made a whole episode out of it.
Well, no, I'll be back. I was rolling. I had barely turned around, and I was like, "Well, got to come back and work this shit out now." It's like, so I hadn't even got back to the truck. I was still technically on my ride, and I was like, "Yep, got to come back." So
win or learn, AKB. Win or learn.
Yeah, that's it. I've only got a couple more years left to try and get a podium in the Masters One field. So yeah. I'm just waiting for those guys who are slightly older than me to age out, and then maybe it'll open up. But then you've also got to fight all the younger guys who are just coming into the 30s as well. So it's going to be a constant battle.
See, I think that's easier though, because I think the Masters 2, especially locally here, man, that's a hard class. Like, those guys are gnarly. But then I think people in their early 30s have more commitments.
Yes,
and they don't tend to go racing, so it's a bit easier.
Yeah, true.
Right.
I think I've got 2 more. What do I? What's this? Oh, and I've got a good 3 years, so it might be all right.
Yeah, no, I got another couple.
We'll keep pushing. We'll keep grinding. We'll trust the process. We'll get there when it's time.
I'll pick Lester's brain next weekend.
While we're riding,
when it's got 300
13-hour day and then a 12-hour day.
When it's 3 a.m. and you two are cross-eyed and like in a bush somewhere on the peninsula.
Yeah. We're hunkering down in the toilet somewhere.
Yeah.
Just watch out if Lester gets a protein bar out to share with you.
Interesting. Interestingly, as soon as we were done with Whaka'ed Dog, I was just like, "That's done. Look,
Yep.
I got 2 weeks now to figure out how to be
To work this
some
out.
kind of ultra guy."
Should be fine.
It's lower tempo though, eh?
No, it's
Lower tempo.
one answer
Well,
for
it's
that,
gonna
Lisa.
have to be
is
lower
pickle
tempo.
juice. Get the pickle juice in you. Get it in you now. Just start drinking pickle juice. That's all you need.
Chris,
I
I
had
got
some
a
pickles this
pickle
evening.
juice call on the side of the track while I was.
Yeah, I was with you.
Yeah, we got me and Lester were together, and we got like a cheer from the sidelines of like OTB podcast. Get your pickle juice out.
Get your pickle juice on the pickle juice.
Yeah,
OTPJ.
yeah. Maybe we could get some signature pickle juice made. That could be our beverage.
Next year's beverage.
I'd like to suggest, and if anyone out there knows anyone who would come on as a guest, sort of sports scientist or
Like an expert in the field of pickles, or
an expert. Well, yeah, maybe just if we can
pickle
find
farmer.
a pickle farmer, just anyone. But essentially, I think what we want to do is we need to bring someone on as the official OTB kind of sports like physio almost, or like performance coach, and just talk through like what are the performance benefits of pickles, your soy sauce, your Gaviscons, your Tums. Because Lester, you had a bit of a word for me. I can't remember if it was after the race or before the race. Might have just been last year, but it's all a bit of a blank now. But apparently, quickies. Quickies the answer. Is that right?
Yeah. So Kent Wilson, anyone who goes to a cross country race in the North Island will know Kento. Anyway, I was talking to him afterwards, and I was saying how I'd had a bit of some gut issues, as well as a little bit of cramp, and nothing major in the cramp department. But he was like, "Oh, the quickies is the go, because that'll settle your stomach and it helps with your cramps." And then I remembered that Chris's big theory with the Gaviscon and all the rest of it.
Not my theory.
Well, whose ever theory it was. So yeah,
I've championed the theory.
I'm going to try the.
I think there's something in it.
Yeah, I think what we could do as well is we could probably find out. It'd be hard to get hold of him, but the Dr. Michele Ferrari.
Oh yeah, I've heard of him.
Spanish doping doctor.
Yes, he's still around.
Yeah. He
Got his number?
I don't think he's in jail, but he might be able to come on and give us some advice.
We're going to need a moto man.
I suggested the other day that maybe we just go full like the documentary Icarus for next year, and we just go all in on doping and just see how we go next year, see if it actually pays off.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could have 4 different strategies. So
We probably need someone to fund this, because I can't afford a doping strategy like that. But if we can get someone to back it, I'll try anything.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of competing strategies in there. Like Lester and Red Dog could train. KB could just go on an intensive EPO program, and I'll just meditate a lot. So I'll just do full brain power, and just go out. I'm running without shoes through the winter.
Should we get you an ice bath?
We're going out with one bottle, and it's just got water in it. Yeah, I'm going full Wim Hof.
Yeah, I could see it. I could see it working out real well.
Yeah.
For the podcast, for more podcast content.
The one thing I haven't tried yet, which I think I might look into this year, is training.
Yeah.
Training. Yeah. We seem to have all managed to avoid the obvious here.
I'm looking forward to it. What's the program for the next 12 months, KB? What's when do we start?
About February 20th, I think. When do you arrive? When do you get to Nelson? Somewhere around there.
I settle in around the corner on the 28th of February.
There you go. That's when training starts. 29th.
Change starts on the 1st of March.
Nah, it started on the Monday, boys. Already started.
I thought about going to the gym today, and then I decided that I'm not going to the gym today. I decided that
I wouldn't even be able to move if I went to the gym.
Well,
KB, you've got an appointment with a doctor, don't you?
I mean, half the issue I have at the moment is that my legs are still that sore. I can feel every single spot and every muscle in there that cramped. So
that's so good.
With 2 days,
I like the fact that Can we just go back a week or so and just recall the bad omen moment where you cramped on the
That's
podcast?
right. I forgot
Yeah,
about that.
That was,
It was
probably,
right
that was
in
probably a sign of things to come. We laughed about that, but maybe we shouldn't have.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't good. It was not a good day out. And there was, I mean, I was riding with Lester at the point of when the real cramps hit me, and we were talking afterwards, and he was like, "Yeah, I knew at that point that you were gone. It was not good. It was far too early."
Yeah,
That's so good.
once
we
that
do a
happened,
quick,
I was like, yeah, he's not coming back from this.
Can we do a quick round the houses? What was your highlight? What was your low light? And what did you learn?
All right,
Start with you,
you
Lester.
go first, Chris. Oh, start with me. Okay. I highlight was when Mike, Mike Metz, Kieran and I rode down Whaka'ed together. Yeah, and that was quite cool because we were just blasting.
That was fun.
That was quite sick. That was a pretty good highlight. Early on was a highlight because I just felt real mint, and I mean it caught up with me later on. But I was like, oh, I finally got. Last year off the line, I felt terrible, and this year I just felt nice and ready, and legs felt good. So that was the highlights, and low light would have been probably going up Condi Elevator. Actually, it was not a good showing for me. Like I was creeping compared to what I would normally be doing up there, or normally hope to be doing up there at least. And then what did I learn? I think I have probably learnt the importance of just pacing again, because I've also learned that the last 2 years.
We should listen to this episode sometime before we do the Whaka'ed again next year. So we've got we can relive these lessons.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, you can just make so much time on the climbs if you've got some legs, and I just never have legs left on the main climbs.
More training is what we've worked out.
Yep.
Red Dog?
Yeah, it seems to be the case.
Come in, Red Dog. Still with us, mate?
Red Dog's just finishing up a report from today.
Well, other than the Black Caps winning in India, Kerry, I would say.
So I'm unfamiliar with that sports team.
I would say my highlight of the weekend was Rankin and I descending. Is it fluffy ducks and stuff like that?
Yeah.
And then I could hear him complaining about how tight it was, and I said, "What are you running 800s back there?" And he said, "Yeah, I forgot to cut them down. I've been meaning to for ages." So that was good, and we were together, rode together for quite a while. That was awesome. Low light coming up to Billy T. I was like, I'd been on and off the bike, going up frontal. I was just a bit low, and I started to feel a bit crampy or tight in the legs. But then it sorted itself out. But I was probably a bit slow, probably from the sort of top of direct through to all the way around Mossy and stuff. I was a bit average, and I think it was because, as I said, Lester, I hadn't drained the bottle I thought I had, and it kind of had started to bite by then. But then I got a couple of gels in pretty quick, and it sort of came right-ish. Yeah. What did I learn? I had one of my bottles full of Coke. Not cocaine, just Coca-Cola.
Too bad.
And
would have gone well.
that was pretty good. That was pretty good around the back half. Just something, I don't know if it probably doesn't have the calories in it you need, but I don't know, it was motivating.
Do you think having something
Bit of caffeine
different and something sweet and kind of like Coke tastes good as well?
Yeah.
Like a little bit of a lifter?
It's not an obvious sports hydration-y mix. It doesn't taste super chemically.
Not that I've got there, but I had a bottle with Monster Mango Loco waiting for me at the final bottles, but yeah, unfortunately didn't make it there. So
is that still
there?
there?
Pick one up from the servo?
No, I did actually get that back, and I tipped that out in the car park along with about 4 litres of race fuel.
So was that in the can still?
No, I didn't. I tipped it into a bottle. I didn't leave it in the can.
Oh,
Oh,
So you're just going to rip.
That's the rule. If you're going to have a
Rip
monster on
can
race, you got to rip a can.
Yeah, that would be good
Yeah.
actually. Shotgun it.
Good.
Right across the middle.
Highlight, low light.
Highlight finishing, low light finishing.
Yeah. No, I had plenty of like actual riding highlights in the first probably 40 Ks. But I actually think some of the best moments were coming through anywhere there were supporters. Like one of the things that guys in this race do really well is they put your name on the number plates, and I didn't realize this until we way into the race. I went, fuck, all these people know my name. And there was one point where I can't remember where the hell it was. It might have been coming out onto the road as you're going up to split ends. And there's 3 people standing out in the middle of nowhere. And I come out, I'm by myself, just dragging ass. And they're like, yeah, go Chris, fucking have it. Yeah, you're going for it. You're going so well. And I was like, man, that helps. Like that actually got me going. And conversely, the low light would have been going up fucking Pondy Elevator and those stupid Mons Royale signs.
Yes.
Bro,
count me in for that.
Bro, that was like the equivalent of someone standing on the side of the track just throwing horse shit at you. It's like one of the hardest parts of the race. No. There's those days are well past. But I was just like, God, can you not?
They also haven't changed in 2-3 years. I've done it 3 times. I've been the same every time.
Did any of them say Brap?
No.
But what about Dirt is the New Snow?
Tell you what, if it did, I would have been kicking it. I would have been kicking it so hard.
Did it say everyone else is at work and you're just suffering your way up Pondy?
Pretty much. What I learned though, I learned I can do it without training.
Good call.
So that's a problem.
Excellent.
KB.
Highlight was doing a podcast with my childhood hero John Cacaldi in the weekend.
Oh, that's a highlight.
Out soon.
When's that coming out?
A couple of weeks' time, probably.
He's got it in the bank.
Yeah, great episode that was too. So keep your eyes out for that one. Low light was I was feeling so smug. We did the pre-episode and I was talking about how I spent $45 to do the eliminator just because I was going to do qualifying for a grid position. My low light was when I got to the start of the race and they just decided they weren't doing that. And so I got real fucked and got stuck way back in the pack. Not that it made a difference at the end of the day, but that
way back in the pack. You were like...
They 100% listened.
That pissed me off because I wouldn't have gone up there on Friday if that was the case, because I didn't need to be there after all. I spent $45 to do 2 laps of the eliminator course and it meant nothing. So that was great.
So good.
So it was on the website all the way up saying that, eliminator qualifying would give you a grid position. It didn't. So that was cool. Lessons learned.
They listened. They 100% listened, KB.
Lessons learned, train more. No, I think half my issue was my fueling this year. I was nowhere near. I mean, everyone liked to take the piss out of the amount of gels I had last year, but my fueling was pretty on point last year, I think, compared to what it was this year. So I'm going back to the tried and true next year, just max gels.
Lots of gels.
I think you're right about the gels there, KB. I surprised myself by how much I could do on just eating gels.
Yeah, I want to go for a lower carb drink mix because I don't think the high carb stuff was. I mean, not that it didn't work for me, but I just got sick of it. It was just too syrupy, and it wasn't. I don't know, just wasn't doing it for me. And I think I want to go back to like a more sports drink kind of thing, and then more gels for the carbs. So that's my plan.
I think there's something in that actually. I think about it now. I think the gels plus, because water would have been refreshing. If I could have gels and water and something that would give me the electrolytes without having to just drink that electrolyte mix. I think there's just
maybe
something
it's
about
time to just break back into the Vita Sport again.
Well, that was literally what I was thinking. I love
my
Vita
go-to
Sport.
usually.
I think it's so good.
Yeah.
So I'm going back to the supermarket Vita Sport.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That, like the pure gels are good. They taste good. They're not that hard to eat. you know, and they're a good consistency as well. Like, you know, some gels you eat them and they're just too thick.
Yeah.
These ones are really good. They're easy to get in, and I think that washed down with water would probably be a bit more like,
Yeah,
I don't know,
because
just better on the body.
and I think I think you start to run into trouble when you've got too much like highly concentrated carb mix, whether it's gels or drink or whatever, and you're not getting water, that you start to lose, your gut starts to lose its efficiency, and then you vomit like Lester did. But it's like you do actually need a bit of water or something to wash that stuff down. So yeah, change your plan there.
Yeah, interesting. I think
Water.
more testing. The other thing that I think around that as well is
More testing.
I had done like a 4-hour ride on, you know, the gels and the high carb mix, and I was fine. But I hadn't done 6 hours on it, and it was probably around 4 or 5 when I started to have issues. So that's kind of lesson there. Kieran, do you remember, just as we were dropping, this just came to mind, do you remember my passing maneuver on that dude at the top of
Mine was actually even worse on that poor guy. So we're going down, what trail was that? Hot Cross Buns.
Hot Cross.
And Lester just comes in hot on like an inside line we caught up with this dude. I was following Lester, and Lester makes a move on him. The guy has to like brake, and then on the next corner, I try this like high inside line, and the dude had to basically come to a stop before I just knifed his front wheel.
It was,
and then later on, he comes past. And he's like, "Geez, that was like 4-cross racing back there."
You're like, damn right.
I came. It was one of the turns in the top. I caught up to him. Actually, I was just looking at the Upper Moana segment there, and my power just spikes right up because I was trying to pass him just at the top as you go into there. But I would have had to like pretty much block past him, and I thought, I'll just sit on him a bit, and then I'll find a place to get past. And I couldn't. And then it was one of those turns near the top where there's like 2 lines. So I hooked it inside, but it was way slipperier than I thought. And I fully drifted out basically right into his front wheel. And I was probably lucky he didn't go down. But that was probably the most hectic moment of the day, I think.
So the old Lester Perry force a mistake / shunt him off the track didn't come out this year.
I was really close to him for enough time that I was hopeful that he might, make a mistake that I could then get around him. But
just force a mistake by buzzing his wheel.
I didn't want to be rude, but I also didn't want to be stuck behind him the whole time.
Lester,
it's important to.
Do you also remember the guy that we were around a bit earlier before that, and he was just running? I mean, this is just like one thing that's ingrained in my mind. He was running like chamois shorts, whatever, like, but not a bib. And so he had like a crop top all day because his top was super short. Like his top was maybe a size too small, and so he was just rocking a crop top. And I was following him a lot, and I was like, this is just real uncomfortable to be behind.
I'll tell you what, that's one thing as someone who doesn't spend a lot of time in a chamois and even less time in bibs. Don't, like, if you're gonna, like, just get bibs.
Yeah, I didn't think
you shouldn't even be able to buy non-bib, like,
exactly
chamoises, you know, like, for everyone's sake.
That was maybe.
I can't believe it, but yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've got a.
Like, what's worse, a twat gap from your shorts to your knee pads, or from your shirt to your tight shorts?
Like the XE
it probably depends whether or not you can see your tribal tattoo on your lower back. I'll tell you what, I've got I do have another high-low light, which is sort of like another competing high-low light. One of the highlights was pulling on the white jersey. One of the low lights was feeling like I was leading down the white jersey. So, you know, like, it's a real double-edged sword there.
Actually,
It looked good.
I've got one last.
Good, didn't it?
I've got one last story that we're gonna wrap it up with. So, our good friend Nathan Sherritt, we talked him into coming to the Whaka'ed. Basically, he was like, "Yeah, I'll come if I can race my e-bike." And we're like, "Well, it's an e-bike class." So he came up, raced the 50. Nathan and I get to the event on the Friday for the Eliminator, and he's like, I'll go for a ride. I'll go pre-ride a bit of the trail while I do the eliminator. So we worked out. We had a Ford Ranger Ute rental, and it's got one of those. It's got like one of those powered hard lids on the back of it that rolls out, and
It's a wild track, mate.
it was
a wild track.
and so we're like, we'll chuck the keys in the bike bag. We'll just put that in the back, so keys are hidden away. Little do we realise that the tailgate locks as part of the central locking. So he's locked it, put the keys in the bike bag, throws the bike bag in the back, and shuts the tailgate. Doesn't think anything of it. He goes off. I'm already over the thing. And I was like, I need to get my glasses. So I go back. I go to open the tailgate. Can't get the tailgate open. Can't get the top open. It's a rental. Don't have spare keys. So I call him. He's just got out. He doesn't really know where he is because he's just started riding. He didn't know his way back, so he actually had to just backtrack and ride backwards on trails to get back to the car park. We faff around for a bit trying to get into the truck. We realised there's no way we're getting in there. So we've spent a good bit of time there. I try calling Hertz 3 times. Don't get anywhere with it. So in the end, he decided we check Google Maps, and he decides to jump on his e-bike and ride to the airport to see if they've got spare keys. So he gets.
No, you can do that on an e-bike, though, can't you?
So he gets it from the forest car park out to the thing, gets to the airport, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, the spare keys are in Tauranga." So he's like, "Well, fuck, I can't ride my e-bike out there, can I?" In the end,
So good.
they call roads. They call the AA. He rides back to the car park again. The AA guys come in. He's called me. We went over and he got in, got the keys out. All good. But Nathan gets back, and just as he's getting back to the forest, he sees the guy in the AA van leaving, and he's freaking out that he hasn't been able to find the truck and he's gone again. So he's like gapping across traffic, max heart rate, to stop this guy. And the guy's like, "No, I've already done it. I've done the job. I'm going now."
That's so good.
That was maybe one of the high lowlights of the weekend. It was it was pretty funny at the end of the day, but made for a bit of a stressful time for everyone.
Can I
There's a sign
point
of
out,
things to
Kieran,
come.
Can I point out, KB, that this is not the first time that you've had this kind of thing happen?
I know, he's a shocker for it.
Actually, yeah, Lester and I had the same thing happen. But I
Basically
wasn't
the
even
same scenario.
I wasn't even intending on leaving the keys in the van that time. The van just locked itself.
Happened.
They just never even brought us back, that rental place. But that's a story for another podcast. I think it is time that we call it a night, because right now it is 10 p.m. and it's time to go to bed. So for all you listeners who have made it this far into our fateful and somewhat successful, I guess, Waka 100 recap, we'll be back next year.
See you next
Yeah, we
year.
will.
See you next year.
What's up? I come from the land of down under. I can't hear you. What was that? I can't hear you. I let it be like John Lennon, the anti-serum that you don't get for poisonous venom. Read the label carefully, I'm only here for the show. I love hip-hop too much to let you feed my ego. In the key of F-U-C-K, Y-O-U. I mean, why do I owe you if you're not helping me through? I mean, why do I owe you if you're obstructing my view? Success is not my castle, just a house that's brand new. You see, I irrigate the culture, give it shape like a sculpture. Still complicated, rock like I'm supposed to be. L-I-T-Z like my DJ. Rock to the rhythm like you rock to what he plays.